So, to finish out these final thoughts, let's recap some historical events that took place so that way we can understand the impact or the effects that the Social Security number has on us and the possible remedies that the employer identification number offers us. All right. Now, for the most part, most people are all falling into this category over here. This is the E category. This is the employee section. All right. In this section, individuals receive income through the form of a W-2, it's reported on a W-2, and they're taxed at a rate of about 35% on the Social Security number that is used to fill out their employment form, right? Or their tax withholding form, otherwise known as the W-4, right? Now, individuals who do a little bit more schooling, more specialized educational training, they fall down here into this section, self-employed or specialist, small business also, right? Now, these individuals are receiving income, possibly sometimes through a W-2, more times than not through a 1099 miscellaneous form, because these specialized employees, these specialized workers, it can't be dictated how the task has to be performed, but that they can only have like a deadline as to when the service or the goods must be produced. All right. Now, the dangers to that is that, of course, like they have higher degrees of education, and so that degree is already a liability because it's also taking money out of their pocket, right? This is partly the reason why student loan debt is one of the other reasons why some people end up knocking at the door of Moorish Science Temple, right? Either they're getting taxed too much on their employee benefits, or they're getting hit on their income, their self-employed income, and no one is explaining to them how these taxes or how their credit is being impacted through the use of the Social Security number, either for employee purposes or for self-employment purposes. All right. But eventually, like when individuals in this category wise up, they start to move over into this section, which is the business section. Now, in the business section, or the big business section, these individuals or these corporations hire individuals that are employees, right? And or self-employed, right? These are self-employed, self-independent contractors, as well as individuals who are just administrative specialists, right? Now, what the business here does, this is where it gets very interesting. Businesses who hire employees, they pass the corporate tax onto the employees or onto the self-employed. So they actually reduce their taxes, and of course, it's not written up here at this moment, but businesses are taxed somewhere in the realm of 20 to 25% of the taxable income, meaning the income that is left over after the expenses of the business has been paid. So, which is a very interesting thing, because for employees and for self-employed individuals, they don't get to spend money until after they pay their taxes, but businesses are basically paying their expenses and itemizing those expenses as tax, where the income is going for tax purposes. Hey, you want this income, you want to tax this income, follow the money, go tax the people who are now in possession of it, because they have the taxable income. All right. Businesses is going to just basically say, well, the employees, the staff, those are business expenses, and so those expenses have to be included. They have to be paid for before the taxes can be paid. Basically because the IRS only taxes you on what it is that you have left over. So here it is that most employees and self-employed individuals have, think it wise or beneficial to have high income levels. Well, that actually works against you, because once again, the amount that is left over in your personal income account, that is a taxable amount of income. It's taxable revenue. All right. So what you could do is, with that income, you could go ahead and move yourself from the employee or self-employed category into the investment category by lending or leasing the money from yourself, from your personal income, to a business. And then, of course, as an investor, the investor passes the investment onto the business. The business now has taxable income. The taxable income of the business then gets pushed or put over into the hands of the employees or the self-employed, which also helps to reduce the taxation. Now, if this makes sense to you, then you understand that what we're looking to do is not necessarily avoid taxes. We are seeking to reduce our taxable income, which is completely legitimate and legal. I have to say that as a certified tax agent, 95% of the tax code is made to actually reduce a taxpayer's taxable income. So like, why wouldn't you use that system to help benefit you? You know, like, why would you? Yes, it appears as though like most corporations in operation are cheating and taking advantage of their consumers, but that's because most of their consumers are poorly informed, also poorly educated, you know, and it has nothing to do with the complexion of skin. Uneducated people across the board all have the same mentality as it comes to finance and to how they spend. All right, so if we want to get out of being the majority of consumers who don't understand finance, well, we'll invest some time and some energy into learning this system. All right, let's look at some other interesting tidbits. All right, because yes, we've explained the difference between the employees and the self-employees and the business side of this line, right? So we see individuals who use social security numbers on this side and employer identification users on this side. Well, when was the social security number when was it established? Well, for those of us who identify and observe Moorish Science or engage in the practice of Moorish Science, we know that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, peace be upon him, came in the year 1913 and established the first temples in Connecticut, and then moved that incorporated temple to Illinois, and then incorporated the temple there as a non-profit religious organization. All right, basically claiming those tax exemptions. All right, now yes, you are Moor, and as a Moor or as an ascendant of Moroccans that are existing here in the United States or within the landmass of America, yes, you do have the U.S. Treaty of Peace and Friendship, or the Morocco-U.S. Treaty of Peace and Friendship. However, you must also take into consideration that without going to a Moroccan consulate and acknowledging or identifying yourself as a Moroccan citizen, you will still be considered a naturalized citizen of the United States, which is part of the reason why that Social Security number that was created in 1935 by the Social Security Administration, which communicates with the Internal Revenue Services for tax purposes, well then, you know, you're missing out on where your treaty-related tax exemptions come into play, all right? Because you're not a Moroccan citizen, and if you identify yourself as a Moroccan citizen and you haven't, you know, naturalized or repatriated to the nation of Morocco, then you stand to also be taxed twice. All right, you stand to be taxed the double taxation because you're being taxed by two nations. All right, so pick a nation. You know, pick a nation, pick a country, pick your host government. You know, like, by all means, if you can get out from underneath America's corporate structure, or you don't understand it and you feel that it's time to go, by all means do it. You know what I'm saying? But understand the tax liabilities and tax benefits that come along with it. All right. Other things to consider is that in 1954, the Internal Revenue Service created through 26 USC 2106 the act, or the codifice for the use of the employer identification number, which was originally issued by 12 organizations, which was then reduced to 10, but is now, to 3, but can be issued by up to 10 different campuses, as they like to call them, you know, or locations throughout the US of A. All right, so things like tax liens, credit liens, corporate credit, you know, unfamiliar, you know, scared, being afraid of audits and everything else like that, these things can all be avoided by us investigating a little bit further into how certain entities or structures or programs can now be utilized by us in this present day to also prevent and protect our future as well. Peace and love. Stay tuned for more.